Alright, so fossil hunting in Florida, you can find a lot of neat stuff. Most people should go after the shark teeth, which are pretty big and impressive. That's not all Florida has to offer. That's from Moroccan, but rest are Floridian. Got plenty of reptile and mammal fossils. Some of these I bought, so I'm not completely sure, but I know they can be found in Florida. This is a whale vertebrae. It's pretty dense. I've seen a few people, when I went phos hunting in a phosphate mine, the only time I was able to do it before they banned it, was with a club. So, saw a few people find some of these. They also had big, dense ear bones. They still do, I'm pretty sure. This is what they look like. Very heavy. I bought that, so I'm not completely sure if it's from Florida. The rest of them I bought, or I found, but this is the last one I bought. This was from a manatee relative called the Dugong. Now this one is probably early Miocene, early to mid Miocene, different species from the late Miocene Dugong, but it's pretty similar. You know, you got a big jaw which would have had very strong muscle connections, and those grinding teeth. Although most fossils are of course not this nice that you find of dugongs, but that's what they would look like. Here's what they look like. They're still around in certain parts of the world. Very similar to the manatee, except they got forked tail instead of a paddle tail, and downward facing skull for feeding off grasses on the bottom. Yeah. Most common among all Florida mammal fossils are these Dewgong Rib Bones. You can tell because they're usually pretty dense, cylindrical. Sometimes they have these growth rings. But the more you dig up, the more you'll find these fragments. You know, usually they look somewhat like this, tubular, pretty dense. Sometimes you have the end of it. Most of the time they're broken off. Biggest one, longest one I found was like 4 or 5 inches. I'm sure there's bigger ones out there. This is more rare. I found part of a Dugong jaw. You can tell because this was where one tooth was. There's 2 holes on top and 1 on the bottom. Okay. And sometimes you'll find these dugong ribs look like they've been chewed up, and they have in a way. Mostly from snails and other types of scavenging invertebrates. Actually eat the bone before it fossilizes. So I used to think it was only snails, but I saw a talk there also said like squid and octopus and maybe nematodes. I forget all that she said, but definitely more than just snails that do that. Sometimes they're bigger holes like that. Pretty neat. Oh, and sometimes you find these dugong skull plate. They come in a few different shapes and forms. I don't know where exactly on the skull this was. Maybe towards the back. I don't know. But and if you don't know what a fossil is, you can always ask online. That's how I figured out that. And this jawbone. Besides that, it's pretty much all from the Miocene when Florida was underwater. And you have the ice ages. Among the most common are armadillo plates. Like this. It's from a giant armadillo. And you have a circular one. It has a big circle in the middle. That's from the Holmesina. I might be mispronouncing it. If you have a smaller circle in the middle and several outside of it, that's from a Glyptodon. Which these had a relative in South America that had a spiked tail. Yeah. about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. This would have had hundreds, if not thousands, of these on its outer shell. Pretty cool. And then horse teeth are pretty common. You can tell on the chewing surface it's pretty wavy. I don't know how good you can see that. But over time, like even just finding this little chunk, a certain wavy pattern on the chewing surface, you can tell right away that's horse. Here's a bigger one. It broke like in half. But they get bigger. They can be small, but they can also be big. You can tell based on the top. It's got that wavy pattern. And look on the side, that's also distinct. I know you can also find cow teeth that look like they've been fossilized, but sometimes they're in the process of fossilizing, I guess. You got some oddballs, quote unquote. That's what a tapir tooth looks like. Yeah, more pointy. This one kind of broken up, but yeah. Another grinding tooth. This is from a capybara. Yeah, Florida used to have all kinds of mammals. More straight. This is just a fragment of it. This kind of looks like a deer tooth, if you're familiar with those. Oh, that's the bottom. But this is from a prehistoric llama. Some people call them camels, but from all the research I've done, Florida only had llamas, or at least something closely related to llamas. It's much bigger than deer teeth, but still that simple, kind of pointy. Yeah. This is probably my most rare find. I found it pretty early on, so I didn't think too much when I found it, other than it looked pretty cool. This is pretty rare. Mostly you find herbivore fossils, but this is from a carnivore, no doubt. I don't know exactly what it's from. Nobody can seem to tell me without a doubt, but it's definitely a carnassial premolar. It seemed to be upper carnassial. From the research I've done, I think it's from a wolf, maybe from a bobcat, I don't know. But it seemed like feline carnassials are much more massive, but that's kind of rare. I bought this, but I found some smaller ones. This is what a raccoon jaw looks like. So yeah, when people think about fossils, they think dinosaurs, maybe sharks, basically anything with a skeleton or teeth can fossilize. As long as it's hard, as long as it's under the right conditions. But I found smaller ones. This one has a few teeth. Oh, and then I found this pretty early on. This is a lucky find, a raccoon skull. I have absolutely no idea what it was when I found it. Full of sand. It started off all black, but then sometimes it'll turn brown on you. Of course, you don't want to re-wet it. I mean, sometimes you have to get sand out and stuff, but like that's what happened to this horse tooth. This used to be all black, but this is the first horse tooth I ever found. I re-wetted it a few times, and when it dries, it becomes more brittle, and it changes into that dull bluish color. But I consolidated it, so now it's good. Yeah, horse teeth are pretty common. Carnivore teeth, skulls, pretty more rare. I know some people probably were looking at this knowing what this is. This mammoth tooth, or part of it. You can tell because of the pavement surface. Pretty distinct for mammoth. I'd been a few years into fossil hunting. I assumed I'd never find one of these. And about 15 minutes into digging, I was with a group. We kayaked to a certain place. And I found it within like 15-20 minutes. I was like, oh my goodness, I finally found one. Then somebody found a complete carnivore jaw, probably a wolf, coyote, or dire wolf, so that kind of overshadowed finding this. They're like, oh, mammoth tooth, oh, you're supposed to be finding those. But still a pretty special find in my opinion. And then you can find mastodon teeth too, but those are more pointy. Also pretty neat. I haven't found any of those yet. Dug up any of them. And you find some miscellaneous bones. This is definitely some kind of an end of a bone. And you can learn the types of bones, what kind of bone it probably is, but it's very, very hard to tell exactly what kind of animal it's from unless you've been studying those animals. If you just ask online, they'll tell you what kind of bone, but most of the time they don't know what kind of animal it's from. Yeah, that's pretty much it. No shortage of mammal fossils, especially, you know, armadillo, horse teeth. Those are given. You can find Mastodon, mammoth teeth if you're lucky, or some other neat find. Tapirs, there's no more uncommon, but if you dig long enough, you probably find some of those sooner or later. Dugong bones, those are everywhere. I've talked to people. I'm surprised more people haven't found Dugong Jaw, so this is a pretty lucky find. Of course, something big like this, pretty fragile. Somebody probably was diving for this. Yeah, and always be careful if you don't know how fragile something is. This didn't seem too fragile, and still it started drying out. You can see I don't know why I was picking at this or something, but part of it fell off, and I had to re-glue it. Put some super glue. Yeah, this was pretty fragile, or still is. I put this in a special spot. You can tell it broke in half or quarter. Yeah, but these get even bigger. This is just part of a mammoth tooth. Yeah, any further questions, yeah, don't hesitate to ask. Yep. All from the Peace River, Joshua Creek region, southwest Florida, except for the ones I bought. Some of them I have no idea where they're from, but oh yeah, in this book, it's not great for identifying fossils, but definitely for learning about fossil mammals, especially. Also sharks a little bit. Fossil vertebrates of Florida. You can learn all about those kinds of animals. And I've kind of met Dr. Holbert. He tried identifying. I gave him that carnivore tooth. He couldn't tell me without a doubt what it is. You know, even the tooth is a little bit broken. But yeah, he knows his stuff. Learned all about those animals. What Florida had, what Florida didn't have. It's not perfect. This came out like almost 20 years ago, but still some really good information, even if some of it might be a little bit outdated. Yeah, really recommend this book for all Florida fossil enthusiasts, especially if you're up and coming. Just learn about Florida fossils. It's got some good drawings too. Not really of the animals, but of fossils. Oh yes, sloth claws, you can find those sometimes, but about reptiles. Yeah, pretty good book. Oh yeah, deer antler. I forgot to get a piece of that, but those are fairly common. Some reptile fossils, snake vertebrae, gator teeth, and of course shark teeth. Yeah, good times. Good finds out there. It's a dry season for the Peace River. Definitely going to hit that more. Go digging, find some good stuff. Oh yeah.